Hello, the doc is in, and welcome back to another chapter of Black Clover, chapter 337, Destination. In the last chapter, basically we have everybody getting the deets on how Asta was murdered, quote unquote, because at the end of the chapter we find out he's still like bleeding out to death with a giant scar on his body, but he's not erased from existence. Apparently, he's on some beach, bleeding to death. We have Yuno declaring that he's going to put the beats on Lucius. And we have Lucius declaring that he's going to put the kibosh on Yuno. Where that's going to go, we don't know. Well, actually, we do know. I mean, it's probably going to mean they're going to fight. Now, will Yuno be able to not immediately die? Now, that's a good question. If he doesn't immediately die, that might put him over Asta, but that's neither here nor there. Let's hop into this chapter. So, chapter starts off, we don't get an immediate resolution to the situation going on with Asta. Instead, we go back to the Black Bull's hideout. We have Magna and Luck. They're kind of training or whatever, I guess fighting, doesn't matter. And we have everybody kind of just doing their own thing, interacting with each other, the usual. And then we have Noct showing up, and he needs to make an announcement. Obviously, he's coming from the meeting, and to something I did not realize, not everybody knows that Asta's dead, so he has to make the announcement. He's like, all right guys, so Asta's dead. Mind you, we don't know where Yami is at this time, so that makes things interesting. What is Yami doing? But neither here nor there. He basically makes the announcement. He's like, hey, look, he was mortally wounded, and then, as far as we know, erased by spatial magic. So it would be very, very logical and reasonable to assume he's dead. Everybody's pretty shocked, and everybody's just kind of dealing with this information of their own feelings. But Noct's the first one to be like, hey, look, I know what the evidence says, but no body, no case. So if I don't see the body and don't personally check his pulse to say that he is dead, personally, I think he's alive. And everybody's like, you know what, Vice Captain, thought you were kind of an asshole, to be honest, but you're all right. We agree. He can't be dead. And so they all basically agreed that we're going to figure out where this guy is, and we're going to pick him up and tell him to come on so we can beat up Lucius. And so they all head out. Right. And from there, we cut away and we get to see Asta. He wakes up. He's in a room somewhere. Looks pretty nice. Pretty cool digs. And he's kind of disoriented. He's not sure where he is, which kind of suggests that from where we saw him on the beach, this is the first time he's woken up since the incident. And so he sees seems like to be like a doll robotic thing come in, and he kind of like says like, oh, it kind of looks like Charmy, but it kind of like throws up like tea, and he's just dazzled. And as he's kind of like paying attention to the doll thing, a guy in the background's like, oh, that's a tea serving doll. And he's like, how you doing? How you feeling, Asta? And of course Asta's immediate reaction, he's like, all right, well, that might not have been Charmy. 2, how does this guy know who I am? And who is this guy? And he checks himself. He's like, okay, well, my wound, my death wound was healed, and only Mimosa, debatably the best healer that the Clover Kingdom has at the moment, was the only one that he thought could heal this. So he's like, okay, clearly this guy has some kind of really powerful healer at his disposal. But the guy kind of goes on. He's talking very friendly. He's kind of just being like, oh, you're just one of my guys, whatever. And so Asta kind of points out, he's like, well, what happened to my guy Lieb? He's like a black thing. The guy, to his credit, has some knowledge. Asta makes a point of not saying that he's a devil, while the other guy points out, oh yeah, your devil friend, not to worry. We are healing him as well. Which is interesting, that he wasn't healed at the same time, that he needs to be healed separately. We also assume it's been a while, but I mean, obviously we don't have a real time lapse for like how long's it been that he's been out. And of course, considering the dire situation, the fact they only got 7 days to prepare for Lucius, realistically speaking, all the events that we've seen going on in the Clover Kingdom could have happened in the last couple of hours since Asta went missing, quote unquote. And so Asta continues to like kind of gain his boundings, and he even reads the guy's key, and he's like, well, he doesn't seem hostile, so there's no reason to be on edge at the moment. And so he asks him like, oh, do you know who Charmy is? And he's like, well, personally I haven't met that person, but I do know a certain guy named Yami. We're all childhood friends, you know. And of course Asta's like, whoa, you're friends with my captain. And not explain his relationship, but I guess he kind of gives like a bunch of facts about Yami that really only people who hang around him a lot would kind of know. So the first thing he brings up is like, oh, back when I saw him last, which was back when we were 13, well, he was 13, and we don't necessarily know his age, or at least the age of when they kind of separated. So he says back when he was 13, he used to take long dumps, and of course that is a classic detail, the toilet. And then he goes on, he's like, he's violent, he always has mean looking eyes, he's quick with his hands, and he's actually very afraid of bugs. And Asta's like, oh, I didn't know that one, but I'll probably never get to try that out and see if he actually is scared of bugs, because he might kill me. And that's a fair point. We also get a look at this girl mean mugging in the background, and we don't get an explanation for her over the course of the chapter, but we'll touch on that in the discussion portion. But they're going on, they're talking more, and eventually Asta's like, oh snap, I gotten off track. I have to get going. I gotta get back with my peeps, give my dude, and I'm heading out. And the guy's like, look, alright, you're not in good shape. Not only that, but you just had your heart broken, then the person who broke your heart then by the guy you admire was changed forever, possibly, and then killed you. Tried to kill you at least. So, I don't know if it's a good idea for you to head back there right now. And Asta, of course, and by my own account, are like, well, how'd you know that? And he's like, well, my eyes give me the ability to see whatever I would like to see. And I'm gonna tell you what my eye tells me. If you go back over there right now, you will be holding the fattest L ever. Trust. And this panel looks really well drawn. Like, it's really good. But that's neither here nor there. Asa kind of says this knowledge. He's like, shoot. He's kind of not wrong. Because, Asa he got slapped up. He got slapped up real bad. By the lackey, no less. So it's like, And so the guy's like, not to worry though. Since you're here, I'm gonna help you out. Plus, you can't even leave it here anyway, at least not on your own. And of course, us is like, what do you mean by that? And so then mean mugging girl then walks on past, and she opens all sliding screen door kind of things, and we get introduced to where Asta's at. And it's the land of the rising sun. Everyone was theorizing about it. The imagery of the guy standing with the sun behind his head, it could not have been more obvious. Just implications and allegory and hinting. This was like the most obvious twist ever, at least based on last chapter. Now, if you want to say that like the chapter where you got teleported, fair enough, but definitely last chapter it was like there's no place he could ever be. There's no other place he could possibly be. And so the guy specifies his name. He's like, my name's Ryuya, and I am the shogun of this place, and I'm gonna help you get a power up so you can put the beats on that Lucius guy. And that's the end of the chapter. Overall, a pretty good chapter. Nice setup. I think there's definitely a couple of things to this. One, we don't know if this land has a way for him to get back, which I think is an important part of this, because it kind of seems like, oh, he's not letting him leave because he doesn't think he's ready. Considering that Yami got to the Clover Kingdom by accident, there might not actually be a way for them to easily get him from here to there. Which is where the first part of the chapter comes in, where it's likely, or at least possible, that the Black Bulls, in searching for him, come to the conclusion that he's in the land of the rising sun. And so then, well, land of the sun, but land rising sun. But they're gonna somehow figure out that he's there, and then figure out a way to get there to pick him up, and or just transport him from there to there, back to the Clover Kingdom. And with that being said, kind of touching on the land of the sun and all of this stuff, I mean, there's a couple of things that I've seen from the community, and a couple of things that I think about. Now, it's been said by people that, oh, what if this guy actually is like related to Yami or something, which is not impossible, but I mean, obviously that would have to be like explained down the line, but as it stands right now, it's like, one, they could just look similar because they're from the same place, I mean, same ethnicity kind of thing, and two, there's not really much reason for him to when meeting someone that for all intents and purposes he doesn't know, for him to basically lie to him about his connection with Yami. I mean, especially since he's already saying he knows him, it's like, why would you say that you know him and that you guys are old childhood friends, which is pretty close. I mean, you could even suggest that that is a relationship that could be thought of as brothers, but not mention that you guys are actually like brothers, probably, or something along those lines. Seems weird. I mean, of course there could be explanation for it, the author could do whatever he wants, but as it stands right now, I don't think he's actually being secretive about who he is in the traditional sense. Maybe he might be doing that in the sense of like, oh, I'm not actually a shogun, or maybe there's more implications for who I am to the land of the sun, but I don't think he's lying about just being friends with Yami from a long time ago. The lady's more interesting to me than Ryudo, just because she's standing there, she doesn't say not a word, and she's mean mugging the whole time. Like, I mean, obviously she could just maybe like work for Ryudo, or maybe she just doesn't trust Asta, but currently I would say there's gotta be something to it, because she's just giving off very angry vibes. And it seems odd because obviously Asta hasn't done anything yet, and Ryudo, who seems to be like at least the pusher of this entire scenario, hasn't really given off any aggressive vibes. So the fact that she seems upset kind of gives me a moment of pause, or at least a moment to look at her. And outside of that, I mean, there's opportunities for there to be twists here. I mean, there's the situation with Lieb, like he's getting healed, but he's not here, and we haven't seen him yet. That could lead to situations with the devils. I mean, the Land of the Sun could be evil for all we know, which could maybe be part of the reason why she's mad. Like, maybe she thinks that Ryudo is evil, or at least hiding his intentions, and so she feels bad because it's like, you're taking advantage of this kid, and so that's why she's mad. I mean, like I said, it could be a number of things, but for the time being, I think that's about it for this chapter. Leave a like if you like, leave a dislike if you dislike. Comment, how do you think Asta's gonna get home? I feel like that's like the most interesting question here. And with that all being said, feel free to subscribe if you want to see more videos like these for every single chapter that comes out up until the end. We're getting close to there, not quite there yet. But if you want to see more videos like these on a bunch of various manga, check out the channel. Feel free to subscribe, ring the notification bell, all those nice things. And with that all being said, thank you for watching the video, and the doc is out. Peace.